Thanks. Here's my call sign is BatMando, and today you are watching a field report that involves Scum versus Rebels, and today's lists are going to be called Fang Around and Find Out versus the Fox Force 5 version 6 of this. So as you can see on your screen right there, you see all the different components and pilots for what we have here. So feel free to pause if you need to, da 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 da. So in which case we got Bosk, we have Joy, we have Lima, we have Old Tayrock, we have Fenrow, and then on the Fox Force 5 version 6, we have Arvel, Dutch, Garvin, Jake, and Wedge. Now, you will notice that Garvin and Wedge, they are both the Battle of Yavin edition. So if you are like, hey, what do they have on that particular thing? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And this is why, if you are new to this game, you need to go ahead and bookmark the following three sites that I'm about to show to you. So first off, go ahead and Google X-Wing Miniature Second Edition Wiki, and you will be able to go over there, type in, let's just go ahead and go with Wedge here for a second. So, and when you know Wedge Antilles Battle of Yavin, go ahead and click that. And now you get to know everything that's on that card, especially if you go ahead and hit the card, and there you go. So in which case, this is everything that is on Wedge. I will go ahead and be kind this time and do this crazy thing where I look up Garvin for you as well, so you can see what Garvin's got up his sleeves. So Garvin's got a great ability, and oh, it's still not pulling up. How nice. There we go. Battle of Yavin. Boom. And in which case, here you got Garvin. So we got a couple of X-Wings that can have a nasty kick to them, and they also have a couple of droids that will help them with either, repairing damage, or in Wedge's case, get a shield back. So now let's go ahead and talk about the second website that you definitely need, and that is the rules reference website, all the X-Wing documents and everything else. If you click on here, it will show you the rules reference and today's scenario that we are going to be playing. And if you're looking for the scenarios, there you go. So today's scenario that we are going to be playing is the chance engagement. So now the third and final website that I'm just going to make mention of real quick is, let's say you go into the rules reference and you're looking at something and something's not quite making sense to you, or you look at some different actions and you are wondering, okay, so a ship cannot perform actions while stressed, but then you have a card that says otherwise, and you just need to ask, hey, is this true, or something along those lines. Well, hey, guess what? There's this crazy thing called the AMG forum, and it is run by people in AMG. And hey, guess what? They will go ahead and answer questions. Check out their frequently asked questions. Check out, if you don't find it there, then you can always go on over here and type in something in search and see what it is that it comes up with. So going back to our scenario now. So we're doing the chance engagement scenario, and essentially you put one satellite right there in the smack dab middle of the board. For those of you who are used or new to the game, you have a playmat or don't have a playmat. Let's say that you're just using a piece of felt that is 3 foot by 3 foot. Take the corners of take two corners, go ahead and fold them into the middle so that they meet kind of like a triangle, and both the 90-degree angle pieces should meet up right there. Then place that center marker right there. So there you have it. Okay, so you won't be able to start getting points till round 2, but in this scenario, unlike all the rest of the scenarios, you actually do get half points this time around. So you will notice that unlike the rest of the scenarios, when we go to the whole score thing, hey, guess what? You're going to see that we start counting half points for the ships that get hit down to that point. So without further ado, so here we are, field report time. Let's go ahead and take you to our first picture. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that setup does not have anything abnormal. In other words, there were no conditions assigned or anything along those lines. And Scum actually won the road this time. So they were first to throw out blocks and rocks and everything else. So had to do a different angle on this picture just so that you could see the extreme sides here, because that's where the fangs are. We have, this is Joy. We have Fenrau right here. We got Lima. We got Bosk, who is facing this way. And then we have old Tayrock over here. So, and then over here on the other side, we have Arvel. And then we have Dutch. We have Jake in the front, and then Garvin right here, and Wedge right there. So let's go ahead and get into this. So as you can see, we got the piece here in the middle. We have a lot of different debris and obstacles here in the center to make it difficult to stay at that range 1 to range 2 spot, so that people can actually collect points. If you do not see it on your screen, or it's needing to be pointed out to you, yes, we do have 6 pieces. Just one of them kind of blends into the whole rocky atmosphere there in Hoth. So there you have it. Okay, so in which case, we're going to go ahead and dig into this and see what all happens. So round 1 takes place. And I want to say that round 1, yeah, Arvel's going to go ahead and start doing some crazy stuff because, well, Arvel can. So Arvel went ahead and shot up pretty fast and then did a barrel roll over to this way. He did not take a second action or a red boost at this point in time because it's round 1, and why do you need to? And then you have, oh, I'm sorry, I think I forgot to say that Rebels won the road, as in roll off after dials, if you are new to the game. If you are new to the game, they, plain and simple, at the when everybody's done with their planning phase, puts everything down, you roll your attack die, and whoever ends up with the higher result, basically the highest result can be 3 crits. After that is going to be, so it starts like this: crit is the highest, focus is second, and then you have hits as the third. So in which case, if you roll 3 focuses, but your opponent rolls, say, even 1 crit, then they get initiative. So there you have it. So in which case, on this particular turn, Rebels ended up with the initiative. So they went ahead and moved first. So you have Arvel, who's already done his thing. Dutch has gone ahead and banked on over here, taking a focus. And then you have, okay, so welcome to Jake. If you are new to playing, for those of you who have been playing for a while, you know that Jake is absolutely crazy, and he can take basically up to 3 actions. He did not take 3 actions this time. So he went ahead and did the bank in, and then he did a bank boost. And for those of you, again, that are new to the game, bank is essentially just a curved turn. You have straight turns, curved turns, and then you have hard turns. So hard turns will basically take you like 90 degrees from where you were. And then the bank turns are approximately 45 degrees. So in which case, you started off with a bank turn, turning 45 degrees, like you see here with the 2 X-Wings. And then he took another bank boost and took the focus, because that is part of Jake's ability. That after he performs a barrel roll or a boost action, he goes ahead and takes a focus. Now, he can give that to himself, or he can give it to somebody at range 0 to 1 of him, as in one of his friends. So now, that being said, so he did have the possibility of taking another boost as a red action at that point in time, but he's already getting a little bit too far away from the rest of his entourage here. So in which case, that's where he stopped. So, and as you can see here, Garvin goes ahead and takes a 2 bank, and then Wedge took a 1 bank, because that's what Wedge did. So, and down here with the scum, you can see that Bosk, who was facing this direction where the Star Wars label is, takes a 2 hard right there, does the focus. Lima doesn't move very far. And then you see that Joy went ahead and took a 2 bank and then rolled out, because what I was seeing on this side was that you had Arvel, who was kind of getting out on the outside, and I didn't want to get flanked at that point in time. So I went ahead and rolled Joy on out to the side here so that we could counter it in case that is the case. And then, hey, guess what? We have also Fen Rao, who just basically took a 2 bank, similar to old T over here, who also took a 2 bank. And that's the end of round 1, because as you can see from this distance, there was not going to be a single shot fired, etc., etc. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to round two. I'm going to tell you that at the end of round one, it was 1 hour and 9 minutes remaining out of the 75 that you are allowed to have. So when we get into round two, hey, guess what? Shocker, Rebellion won the road again. Sorry, I'm trying to form words here today. So in which case, this is kind of what happened with what was going on with movement and everything else. Arvel went ahead and took a 3 bank out and then came in with a bank boost. And then, or I'm sorry, not a bank boost. Well, yes, bank boost, but took a focus, then took the red boost so that he could get closer to Joy. Unfortunately, Joy kind of, seeing this pattern at this point in time, took a 3 bank and then took the focus red boost, or I'm sorry, took the boost, then the red focus, and landed right here, pretty close to Dutch, but not within range 1, if memory recalls, and I'll see here in the field report very soon. So now you're also looking at what were the results of all the fights and everything else. And as you can see, Fang does what Fang always does and got within range so that he could have that range 1 nasty shot that Fang has. And we'll explain that here in just a second. And as you can see from the picture here, you have the arc this way. Fang just got to the point where he could not only get the range 1 attack, but is just out of Arvel's arc. So it's a nasty thing that those Fangs do. And this is why Fang is considered the ace that he is. And it's not a lot of people like him, especially when you have to fly against him. But when you're flying him, he's awesome. So now, in which case, you can see some of the rest of the stuff going on here. Old T took a 3 hard and then took a bank boost and then took a focus. And as you can see, an exchange took place here between Old T and Wedge here. But let's go ahead and just take it in order. So Fang has the first shot of the game because he has a initiative 6 for those of you who are new. And in which case, hey, guess what? So range 1 attack, he's rolling 5 attack dice. And for those of you who are just like, how does that happen? Because if you look at the Fang here, no, it doesn't roll that way. Okay, so the Fang fighter has a ordinary primary attack of 3. Then it has a range 1 bonus, which would give it 4. But because it's Fang, and Fang's ability basically reads that if you are attacking or defending at a range 1, you get to roll 1 additional die. So in which case, here he is rolling 1 additional die. So he throws in 5 attack and only comes up with 2 shields, or strips the shields off of Arvel with that attack. So Arvel has a defense of 3. So let's just go ahead and say that, the odds were not in Arvel's favor, because even if Arvel rolls 3 natural evades, also known as natties, hey, guess what? Let's say that Fang Rao here rolls a total of 5 attacks. He's still going to take or 5 hits. He's still going to take those 2 shields off regardless. So, and that is kind of what happened here. So that was his attack. Now we switch over to Wedge here, because Wedge is the 5 and they actually have initiative, or yeah, they have initiative at this point in time. They get to shoot first before another 5 on the other side does. Took a range 3 attack on over at Old T, or his name is Old Tarok, but some of us call him Old T. So in which case, Old Tarok, he could not hit Old T, but it looks like he took his focus off at that point in time. Old T went ahead and shot back at Wedge at this, or do I skip anybody else? Yeah, Wedge is the only 5 on this list. So Old T goes ahead and takes a attack at Wedge here, and was able to strip off 2 shields at that point in time, even though it was a range 3 shot. For those of you who are wondering, no, it was not an obstructed shot. Those of you new to the game, you see these obstacles right here. If you have a shot that is going through a obstacle, it is referred to as obstructed. So, and that usually gives the person a added bonus for defense. So there are some other ships that actually gives a bonus to the attackers, such as Blackout, but that's a different video for a different time. So please subscribe and make certain that you watch some of those videos as well. Okay, so back to this game. Hey, guess what? Right now, Lima has no one to shoot, but Lima went ahead and put a target lock on Jake here, because at that point in time, this is one of the things, like, you could do a focus, but no one's shooting, or no one's aimed at you by the time that you have finished your movement and everything else. These guys are way too far out of range to even do an attack. So do some forward thinking and go ahead and lay down a target lock on one of your opponent's ships, and hopefully you get a chance to light him up later. So now, let's see here, where was I? Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so we just did that five. Now we're going to the force. So in which case, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Dutch went ahead and took a shot at Joy. As you can see, there's no damage that was put at that point in time. And then you have Jake here against Bosk, and for whatever reason, these two could not hit each other, even though they're range one of each other. That's just the way the dials were. So, or not dials, that's just the way the dice worked that particular time. So it was just weird. So, as I said, Jake shot at Bosk shot back, even got the ability to go ahead and split his crit, because I don't know if you can see this too well, but hey, guess what? We have the bullseye. Now, you that are not familiar with the game just yet, hey, guess what? Bosk has an ability that if he is able to get a crit, and after dice are resolved and everything else, he can split it into 2 hits. Now, he didn't get that ability off this time, but he could have. And the thing I'm going to go ahead and tell you is he also has marksmanship, which means that he can, if you are in his bullseye, which Jake is, then you are able to take a hit and turn it up to a crit. And then if this were actually able to get by Jake's defensive die, then you could take that crit, split it into 2 hits, and you get double the damage. It may not be, say, like a big damage, but at least you're taking 2 off of a ship rather than just taking 1 big crit. Crits can be damaging, don't get me wrong, and they can be detrimental to people who are flying a certain way. But, you know, do you want to take 2 hits, or do you want to give 2 hits to the opponent, or do you want to go ahead and give 1 big crit to them? So there you have it. Now, let's see here. So that took place. Joy over here, as you can see, Joy went ahead and blew one of her charges on Dutch over here. So essentially what that means, Joy has an ability that when she is carrying torpedoes and the charges from those torpedoes, she can spend one of those charges or pop one of those charges, and she goes, or if she does that, her opponent, the defender, has to roll 1 less defense dice. Well, in Dutch's instance, or the White Wings case, they only have 1 defense die. So in which case, Joy goes ahead and pops that charge, gets a total of 2 shields stripped off of Dutch there, and Dutch can't do anything about it because he can't roll defense at that point in time. So that's what happened there. And then let's see here. Arvel has no shot. That's just the unfortunate part of it when you're fighting against Fangs, and they have the ability and the flexibility to get into range and then roll out of arc. So the whole thing with the arc dodgers and everything else, not only is Finn Rao an ace, he's also an arc dodger, and that just makes him twice as dangerous. So there you have it. And I think we're ready to move on to our next round. So again, there was the end of round 2, and let me just check something real quick. Okay, at the end of round 2, because we were able to strip both the shields off of Arvel, he's actually at half at this point in time. He has 2 shields and 2 hull. So in which case, both those shields are gone. He is halved at that point in time. And that means Scrum actually ended up getting 2 points, one for the objective, and then another because Arvel is at half points. So there you have it. The time remaining at the end of this round was 50 minutes, 50, and 40 seconds. So 50, 40. And now we're going to go ahead and get into round 3. So looking at round 3, let's go ahead and hit on over here. Boom. So as you can see by the number of cards that are on here, there was a lot of damage. There was a lot of stuff going on here. So in which case, let's go ahead and start a little bit with any movement that was crazy. So Arvel over here went ahead and took a focus and a red boost. And that's all she wrote at that point in time. Dutch, he went ahead and locked Fang, and he also passed it so that, sorry, this is a part of Dutch's ability. So when Dutch takes a target lock, he is able to give one of his friendly ships a target lock on the same target. So in which case, he handed off a target lock over to Arvel here. So hence the 2 target locks on Fang. Now, let's see here. So that was Arvel moving, and then Dutch went ahead and did the target lock thing. Garvin decided to go ahead and lock Mr. Old T over here, and that was his movement. Jake went ahead and ran into Bosk. Bosk is over here right now, but because he had initiative, Jake ran into him first, and then he went ahead and, or Bosk flies out of the way later. So yes, Jake did have a red focus at that point in time, because he was able to clear his stress, but then he took a red focus. And anyhow, we'll just go ahead and move on from there. I don't know why his focus isn't there. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Sorry for my pauses every once in a while, things going through my brain, Okay, so now we got Jake, who's just moved. Now let's talk about the 5s. Wedge went ahead and took a 2 hard in, and you can't see it from this angle, but I'm going to tell you that Wedge, just because of placement and where Old T ended up, I think he did a boost. Yes, he did do a boost to get in there. Wedge is not able to shoot at Old T because Old T is dodging his arc. Now, I will tell you that he's in the arc of Garvin right here, but that means that he also has the range 1 face-to-face here with Concordia face-off. And that means that even if these 2 both had a ability to focus fire on Old T, he's still getting the 1 automatic evade because of Concordia face-off at that point in time. But Wedge does not have an arc on him, so Wedge is not going to be shooting this time. So isn't that just fun? Okay, now let's see here. Lima here went ahead and did a 4K turn, so that Lima had the possibility of going ahead and taking that shot on Jake there with the torpedoes that she has. Oh, that's where the focus went. Okay, we'll talk about that here in just a second. Okay, now, so we got Lima, who's done her maneuver, and then Fang. Fang doing what Fang does best. Fang went ahead and came on in, was right in front of Dutch at one point in time, rolled on out, got the focus, and since we're already there, let's go ahead and start talking about attacks. As you can see from the number of cards here, 5 face down damage, just hull damage, and Dutch is 1 away from death at this point in time. So, and here's the sad fact, Dutch can't even shoot back because, again, Fang, like most Fang fighters, are arc dodgers, and they can just come in fast, roll out to the side, take a shot at you at range 1, and there's nothing you can do to shoot back at them. That's why they're nasty. So Fang did his 5 attack die. As you can see, all die were converted into a hit because the focus was already spent, as you can see. And as you would know it, Dutch did roll his 1 defense die, didn't come up with anything, and in which case 5 damage done to Dutch in 1 turn. So now we have halved Dutch, and that will go into score later. Okay, so Now we go ahead and come on over to Wedge. Wedge had no shot. And then we go over to Old T. I'm going down how this would be by initiative and by pilot skill or pilot initiative so that everybody knows, hey, this is what happens in this order and everything else. So first things first, Old T was able to shoot at Wedge right here and did a range one shot. Didn't come up with as much damage as I'm certain he had hoped, but there is a damage down at that point in time. So Lima went ahead and did the shot onto Jake. It didn't turn out that great. She used the target lock, and then Jake did his roll and was going to evade it. And then, sure enough, she went ahead and spent the second charge on her torpedoes. And what do you know? By the way, I'm sorry, they're plasma torpedoes. So what do you know? She spent the second charge so that she could force Jake to re-roll two of her or of Jake's defense dice, and it still ended up that Jake avoided the shots from the plasma torpedoes. Now, if you're asking why in the heck would I do this to spend both of the charges in the same turn, Lima has a ability to go ahead and reload those torpedoes, and that's what I was banking on at this point in time. So in which case, went ahead and spent the charge, went ahead and tried to get at least one shield off, and if the plasma torpedo is actually got that first shield off, it takes off the second shield. It didn't work out this time. So that's kind of just the way that it works with dice every once in a while. You hope that it works, and then you go to rolling, and then saturation salvo doesn't help, and then it just didn't work out. So in which case, boom, there's that. So we've had the 5 shoot at this point in time. It is now time for Garvin to do his business. So Garvin went ahead and shot into Joy with advanced proton torpedoes, which is a range 1 weapon only. And I'm going to tell you that those 4 attack dice at range 1 kind of burn. So Old T is barely hanging on after receiving a hit, loose stabilizer, and damage sensor array. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you a loose stabilizer on top of a Fang. Well, any crit in general is terrible on a Fang, but a loose stabilizer on a Fang is absolutely terrible because that Fang can only do straight maneuvers until he takes the action to actually prepare it. And damage sensor array is not much better either because that means that he can't do the boosts, he can't do the rolls, and this is what the Fangs are known for because that's how they just essentially arc dodge all the time. So some of you may be asking, why the heck did I decide to go ahead and put a Fang range 1 of another ship that has advanced proton torpedoes? Okay, I'm telling you that the Fangs are meant to be range 1 for the Concordia face-off. Whether they are actually facing at each other or not facing at each other, you need to have them at range 1 so that you can get that range 1 Concordia face-off, which turns one of your blank or focus into a automatic evade. So that's why he's there. And I apparently banked on it, and Dice said otherwise. So in which case, somehow Garvin was able to get 3 monumental hits in there, and Old T is going to be limping for the rest of this battle, and it's not going to look pretty after a while. So so that was that shot, and Dutch didn't get a shot because Fangs are arc dodgers and the pain in the butt, and Jake here has nobody in arc. So in which case, now we flip over to the scum, and we got Bosk here, who took a range 1 shot into the back of Garvin. Garvin didn't have a focus. He spent his action to get a target lock for that advanced proton torpedo. And hey, guess what? As a result, Bosk here, now this is where he got to do his split thing, and this is where it gets nasty. So in which case, he actually rolled a crit hit blank. So in which case, he's got marksmanship. He takes that hit. He rolls it up to 2 crits. So you, with Bosk's ability, he only gets to do 1 crit can be split into 2 different hits. Garvin rolled nothing. He rolled a blank and a focus, but he rolled no evades. So in which case, because of this, he's taken all 3. So he splits. So Bosk splits the second crit that he just made out of the marksmanship. So he splits that into 2 hits, which takes out the 2 shields. And then to add insult to injury, which I do for free, by the way, he goes ahead and adds in the fuel leak, which means that if he gets hit with another crit again, he's going to be receiving a second hit on top of that second crit. So in which case, not a good thing for Garvin at this point in time. So let's see here, moving right along. We got Joy. Joy was able to pluck off another hit here, as you can see, hold damage on Arvel. Arvel shot back. Arvel didn't get anything. It's really hard to hit Fangs with that 3 defense die, especially when you're an A-wing only rolling 2 attack die. So that's kind of what happens there. At the end of this round, this is round 3, by the way. At the end of this round, we only had 33 minutes and 27 seconds going on. There were a lot. This is kind of what happens in games as well. There was some time that was just dedicated to, does he have the shot? Does he not have the shot? Get out the laser, get out your range ruler, make certain that it lines up with the 2 lines, not only the line in the front, but the line in the back, and making certain that it is in arc or out of arc. So some time was lost there and various other things. So now we're going to go ahead and tell you that at the end of this, Rebellion only has 4 points, and I'm going to tell you that the Scum have 9 points at this time. So if you're trying to figure out the math right here, everyone's getting, or both the Scum and Rebels are getting 1 point from the, 1 point from the objective. And then Scum jumped up with a lot of points because they got a lot of ships to half. Garvin is at half. Wedge is at half, and you still have Dutch over here hanging on, but at half, and you still have Arvel over here hanging on, but at half. So in which case, 4 of the 5 ships there are at half, which means right now Scum has jumped up to 9 total points. It is unfortunate for me that Garvin was able to half Old T, but he's not dead. So there's that. So they were able to jump a total of 3 points because 1 for the objective, 2 is half of what Old T is. And there you go. So looking pretty, like, this round was very bloody, as you can see, very damaging. And then it's time to go ahead and roll on over to see what happened in round 4. All right, so round 4, let's check this picture out. So Scum actually won road this time. So they were actually able to go first and all this other stuff. And as you can see from on this board here, we have a lot of damage going around. And unfortunately, we have 2 deaths that took place during this round. So first and foremost, system phase. Dutch went ahead and dropped one of his bomblets back there just to see if, I mean, there was a possibility that Finn was going to fly through there, maybe go into this place to go somewhere else. But honestly, my thinking to that point in time was, let's go ahead and turn around and finish off Dutch. Now, as things would have it, what happened here was that Arvel went ahead and flew right in front of Joy, did not hit, did not run into, but there he is, range 1, face to face with Joy. And there is this whole aspect of, what do? Do you stay right there? You know that Joy's going to be moving, but if Joy stays right there, even at range 0, yeah, that's great for Arvel, but Joy attacking with 3 attack dice doesn't have mods because it would be range 0, but you're talking about Arvel only has 1 whole damage left, and then Arvel's dead. So in which case, Arvel goes ahead and spins out of this. Arvel also attempted to do a straightforward boost to get closer to the center, and just by the narrowest of margins, this portion, if he had done 1 forward with the template, had actually just landed right there on the rock. So in which case, not something that he could do. So in which case, he got denied that movement, hence he has the stress there. But there he is. Now, Dutch went ahead and flew on in. Actually, let's do this in order. So here you have Bosk only just moved 1 forward. So in which case that is what Bosk did so that he could get forward and possibly get some damage in and everything else. Now, you also have Lima, who decided to move just one forward as well. And I'm trying to remember why that stress token is there now. Okay, we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Oh, I think I remember. Moving on. Okay, so now you have Wedge, who has moved into his spot. I forgot to talk about Old T. So Old T was here. He took a 3 forward, took a focus. Old T really wants to get rid of that loose stabilizer as soon as he can. Sorry, that's not his. That's actually Lima's, as you'll find out. But so Old T still has his loose stabilizer, and he can't do anything other than a straight maneuver unless he wants to die. So that's what loose stabilizer is. Let's see if I can focus in on this. So if you execute a non-straight maneuver, you suffer 1 damage, and it's automatic. You don't get to roll for it. It's automatic. So in which case, if Old T, who has a loose stabilizer at this point in time and a damage sensor array, if he does anything other than a straightforward movement, he's dead. So in which case he takes the focus here because or I'm sorry, I've been doing this backwards, haven't I? Okay, so anyway, we talked about stuff out of order. My bad. So Garvin went ahead and did a 3 talon roll, and this is why Old T takes the focus here, because he's range 1 of him, and there's nothing that he can do. He can't roll out of it. He can't barrel, or I'm sorry, he can't roll. He can't boost. So he's kind of a sitting duck right now. Oh, that's what happened. Okay, the stress comes from Bosk bumps into Garvin before Garvin flies off and does his talon roll. And then you have, at that point in time, Joy. Joy just does a normal 2 hard at that point in time. It was, at this point in time, just saying thoughts out loud. You have Jake, who's right here. And I didn't know if I wanted to boost forward, because if I had boosted forward and Jake just takes a simple 2 hard but can't clear me, then in which case I am sitting with Jake up on my backside and not able to do anything about it. I can't shoot at him. So in which case I don't do a boost, I only take a focus. So now we have Bosk, who did his thing, Garvin's done his thing. Dutch went ahead and flew this way. Dutch took a focus. Unfortunately, that was not enough for him, as you can see. And then where are we now? Okay, so back to the 5s. We've talked about Old T, we've talked about Lima, and then we started dealing out damage. Finn here took a 2 hard and then a bank and a red focus to get into this position. And as you can see, with Dutch and Arvel being where they are, he had his pick of which one he could fire at that point in time. So does he go ahead and go after Arvel and try to kill him off? Or does he go after Dutch? And honestly, I'm going to tell you that the big reason that we went after Dutch at that point in time is that Dutch is worth 4 points and Arvel is only worth 3. So in which case, take the bigger point at that point in time. And it's not like we can't go after Arvel later anyway. So since we're already in the attack phase now, or engagement phase, as you can see, did the roll. Obviously, no paint here for our departed Dutch at this point in time, because he still has his focus. And he took a total of 2 damage, hull and sensor or damage sensor array. As I recall, I had the ability to go, or no, he did block off 1. I'm sorry. I had the ability to go ahead and turn in the focus and make it a total of 3 hits and 1 crit. I decided that, hey, guess what? I can hold on to the focus and not have to worry about it. So in which case, yes, it was one of those decisions of, okay, I'm not going to add insult to injury, even though I do for free. So I wasn't going to do that to this particular player. So in which case, damage sensor array and Dutch is dead. So that was the first attack right there. Then we go ahead and Old T can't shoot anyone because Old T is facing the wrong direction. So in which case he's going to stay right there. Lima goes ahead and fires into Jake here and strips the shields off. Now, I want to tell you how this went down. Jake had the option of spending a focus during this round. And the reason why I know this is because he thought, okay, do I spend it to minimize the damage and only take one shield? Or do I hold on to the focus so I can maximize the damage that I go ahead and put into Lima? And as it turned out, so he takes the 2 shields, probably not the best idea because as you can see, he's got a total of 4 hits here and he's dead at the end of this round. Now, it is now the Rebels' turn. They go ahead and so as things would lay out, et cetera, Wedge here goes ahead and locks, lock is hidden back there. So, okay, he goes ahead and he locks Lima and he goes ahead and does the whole thing that he does with proton torpedoes. He gets a total of 2 crits at that point, or yeah, he gets at least 1 crit at that point in time. Sorry, I'm trying to remember things while talking this whole entire way through. So let me make certain I'm saying all this correctly. Yes. Okay, so now Wedge was able to strip off the shield and gave her a fuel leak as well. So this is where the fuel leak is at that point in time. So that's at the end of the 5s. Now, Joy here has initiative. Joy goes ahead and shoots at, I think it was range 2, range 3. I don't remember. So let's just go ahead and say it looks like range 2. It really does. So it looks like a range 2 shot. And he was able to actually kill, or Joy was able to kill Jake at that point in time because Joy was able to get the hit and the crits. And that's just the way things worked out. So with Bossk over here, since we're going in order and everything else, Bossk went ahead and got off a couple of lucky shots, and Garvin has no focus because he was stressed to begin with the Talon roll because that's a red maneuver. And then to add insult to injury on this one, so Bossk actually only had a hit on Garvin at this point in time. He rolls it up to a crit because marksmanship. Then with fuel leak, because Garvin had a fuel leak from the previous round, he decides to leave it as a crit because it's still going to add on the 2nd damage anyway. Let's just see what the crit does. And the crit that ended up for Garvin was Panic Pilot, which now he ends up with 3 stress tokens. And unfortunately, a X-Wing with 3 stress tokens is basically useless after that for a while, especially when it's Garvin. Because Garvin is meant to like actually take focus and everything else, but Garvin is going to be going the next 3 rounds trying to clear stress because he can't do anything until he does. So, or he can't take any actions at least. So he's got a Panic Pilot and another damage on top of that because of fuel leak. So as I said, I add insult to injury for free. So there you go. Now, let's see here. So that was Bossk. Joy does his thing. Jake's turn now. Jake went ahead and shot at Lima here. Lima ends up with a loose stabilizer, and because it's a fuel leak, ends up with another damage as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that, hey, guess what? We got some points here that are going to add up pretty quick because he has halved Lima. And of course, you know, some points are adding up for the Scum because 2 of their ships just died this round. So at the end of this round, it was 17 minutes and 42 seconds. And hold on a second. Arvel had nobody in arc. It looks like, or it looked like for a brief second that he was going to get a range 3 attack on Bossk. It would have been range 3 obstructed, but guess what? It was just out of range. So it was just like that small. So, but you know, if it's out of range, then you can't shoot. So in which case Arvel doesn't get a shot again. Or I'm sorry, this is the first time he doesn't get a shot because he did get a shot on Joy, but it just didn't do anything. So Arvel is facing not necessarily the wrong direction, but not in range of anyone to actually shoot. So he's got to get back in the game. All right, so again, 17 minutes and 42 seconds remaining at the end of round 4. And the points are Rebels have 6 And actually, let me redo that real quick. Is it no? They should have more than that. So no, they have 7. My bad. Everybody on the count of 3 say what? Cheater. 1, 2, 3. I didn't hear you. Anyway, moving on. So it is 7 to 16 at that point in time. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to round 5. So these past 2 rounds, round 4 and round 3, were really bloody on both sides. So now we're going to get into round 5 and see how this goes. And I want to tell you that it's not as bloody, but it's getting pretty desolate out there because we have a lot more space now that 2 more ships aren't there to do anything with. So in which case, what do you know? Rebels win road once again. This is one of the crazy maneuvers that A-Wings can pull off. So you may remember that Arbol was somewhere around here. He does a 2 bank to avoid the rock here, and then he does a barrel roll this way to avoid this rock here, and then he does the red boost to get into the fight. So in which case, there he is. That's his maneuver. He doesn't have a focus or anything, but at least he's getting back in the fight. And remember that he was back here before he ended up there. So A-Wings are very maneuverable and very dangerous and fast. So, okay. Now we got Garvin. Garvin was attempting a 1 bank when all of a sudden he bumped into Old T. And in which case, that's just how the thing works every once in a while. Bosk, thinking that Garvin was trying to bug out and possibly attack his friend Old T here, does the 3 hard, still has the stress from it. Excuse me 1 second. My bad. So in which case, Old Bosk is just flying behind his buddy, trying to help him out. And then let's see here. Do we have any other 4s? Nope. The other 4s are gone except for Joy here. So Joy went ahead and did a 4 forward, then a boost and a red focus just so he could take on Wedge here because Wedge is coming in after Lima and trying to make sure that Wedge doesn't kill Lima. So present him with a Fang at range 1 and we'll see what happens. Well, you actually have seen what happens because you see the 2 damage there. So moving right along. Let's see here. So Old T does a 3 forward because he's still limping. Yes, he can move fast, but he can't do anything still because he still has a loose stabilizer and he still has the damage sensor array. So he can't boost, he can't barrel roll, he can't even do bank turns at this point in time to get away because he's got the loose stabilizer. So Old T is limping at this point in time. Sorry. So now, in which case we got our final person moving is going to be the one, the only Fen Rao, who can't really get anything at this point in time. He's not close enough to attack anyone. He doesn't have anyone in arc. I did debate whether I should roll him this way, but I thought if I ended up doing that, I may end up where he has to run over that rock there. So no shots available, no targets available, not in range. I couldn't go 1 forward here without running onto the rock, so I didn't. And in which case, I could have done 1 bank here, but that doesn't really give me a lot of options for what can I do the next round. So in which case, just park him there, have a focus for him. Yeah, he still has a target lock on him, but the person who has that target lock is running away. So, you know, insert your favorite Monty Python Quest for the Holy Grail quote here. We got to keep it suitable for kids, otherwise I would. Anyway, so where are we now? So Fen does not get a shot. And in which case, Wedge goes ahead and does that whole shot thing. But I'm going to tell you that, unfortunate for Wedge, hey, guess what? Joy has that crazy thing called Concordia Face-Off. And he was able to get some good hits in there, but guess what? Joy was able to negate both of them because, or I'm sorry, he was negating all the attacks because he rolled 2 evades, had to blink. Concordia Face-Off turns it into 3. So even if Wedge was able to get 3 out of the 4 shots that he put in there, which he did, by the way, he can't, or Joy canceled it out. So that's the thing about Fangs. So It's Fang or Fang lifestyle out there. I'm telling you. Okay, so now, where am I? Okay, so now we go to the fives for Scum. No target in arc. No target in arc. Now we're back to Garvin here. Garvin decides to shoot at Old T. Now, you might be asking, if you're new to this game, why the heck are you not shooting at a range 1 Bosk? Well, if you don't remember on the loadout for Bosk, Bosk has marksmanship and dead man switch. Dead man switch is a illicit upgrade, which basically blows up, like if he blows up his ship, everyone that is within range 1 of him also loses a damage. So in essence, what's going to happen here is that if Garvin, who would be rolling 4 attack die at that point in time, granted he's not modded, but he could possibly roll 4 attack die, and then of course Boss could whiff and not roll any defense, but that means that he kills Garvin at the same time. He may actually ended up killing not only Garvin but also Joy at the same time because of this dead man switch thing. Because dead man switch is not partisan. It's just, you know, hey, I blow up, everybody around me gets 1 hit. Even if you're my friend, you still get a damage. So there it goes. Now, so Garvin goes ahead and shoots at Joy, or I'm sorry, not Joy, Old T. Doesn't hit. And that's the force. Bosk has no shot. Joy, as you can see, runs a range 1 attack and ends up coming up with 2 hits on Wedge, and in which case Wedge is 1 away from death at this point in time. So now you have Arvel here. It looks like they had a range 1 distance between them, but it was just out. So Arvel takes a range 2 attack onto Old T. Doesn't hit Old T because, well, Old T is just going to be stubborn and, you know, keep on living as long as he can, even though he's limping away. So that's all the attacks in this particular round. So let's see here. At the end of this, it is 8-17, and the remaining time is 9 minutes and 41 seconds. So this next round most likely is going to be the last round unless somehow it's sped up, and in which case we'll see what happens. So now let's go ahead and flip to the next picture. And what do you know, we are here at round 6, which, by the way, does end up being the final round. So Arvel did a 2 hard and ran into the back end of Old T before he flew off. Takes the red focus so that he could do that. And then Garvin goes ahead and takes a 1 bank, gets rid of his 2nd out of 3 stress, and, you know, just lines up there, tries to do stuff. And then we're on to Joy here. Joy does, or I'm sorry, Bosk. Let's do Bosk. Bosk just does a 1 forward, clears the stress, and then puts a block on Arvel. Now, I don't know that this is the final round while we're flying this, but I'm pretty certain it is. But he's not in anybody's way. He's not going to be shot at. And why am I going to take a focus when that goes away? And why not take a target lock on Arvel and hope that Arvel flies off real quick, and then I could possibly hit him with a shot later. But that's if we had a round 7. And in this game, unfortunately, we didn't end up having round 7. So in which case, there it is. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing here. So Joy comes in, Joy bumps into Wedge, takes the red focus as well so that he can go ahead and fly off. Now, we move on to the 5s. Wedge goes ahead and uses his droid R2A3. And R2A3 says that before you reveal the dial, you take a disarm token and recover a shield. That's why I put it down here so you can see it. So in which case he goes ahead and gets the shield back. He moves forward about 2. And in which case he's not going to be shooting, but he does see that Fen Rao used to be over here. So he needs to have some more defense if if Fen decides to come on in, because Fen has a lot of options at this point in time. You can go ahead and take a 2 forward and possibly boost this way to take on Garvin, or he could just go ahead and do the 2 here, barrel roll this way, and that ended up being what happened here. So now Where was I? Okay, so we've done this. Old T still flying away. Poor guy. I sometimes feel sorry for him. And Lima here also limping away because, well, on this particular turn, since I see that Wedge is going to be disarmed, I went ahead and repaired loose stabilizer on Lima. So in which case, she doesn't have a focus here, as you can see, but oh my goodness, she's going to be able to do a turn instead of, flying to her death on the edge of the board here. So now, as it were, where am I now? Okay, so we move on to battle. And Finn goes ahead and takes his range 2 shot at Wedge, and what do you know? Nothing happens. He doesn't even get focus on his rolls. That's why the focus is still there, and Wedge doesn't take a lot of damage. As a matter of fact, he takes no damage because the shield's still there. So Wedge is still alive. Fenn is very frustrated at that point in time. I was frustrated. It's like, I can possibly kill this guy. Guess what? Doesn't happen. All right, moving on. So that's Wedge's attack. Or I'm sorry, that's Joy's attack on Wedge. Wedge doesn't have an attack. He's disarmed. And Old T can't attack. He's facing the wrong way. Same thing with Lima. And so we move on to Garvin here, but Garvin didn't have anybody in range. He had people in arc. He could have, if he had just done a 2 bank instead of a 1 bank, he might have actually gotten a shot off on a range 3 Fenn Rao. So that means he's rolling for defense dice, but it's better than no shot at all. So in which case, there's that. Now we move on to Joy here. Boss doesn't have a shot, as you can see. And Joy here takes a range 3 shot through the obstacles at Garvin, and by some miracle gets a crit through, and in which case Garvin dies of a loose stabilizer. And yes, it's unfortunate, but I mean, this is just what happens when you get a ship that's a panic pilot and you can't get any actions, especially a focus. That could have actually helped him with rolling an evade or 2. So in which case, didn't happen. Garvin's dead. More points for the Fangs. And in which case, there you have it. Okay, so speaking of Fangs, you got Arvel over here. Arvel took that shot at Old T, and Old T still does not die. So that was round 6. At the end of round 6, it was a total of 9-20 in favor of Scum, and the time has elapsed at the end of this round. Now, sometimes I like to wonder what's going to happen in the next round, round 7, et cetera, et cetera. So, but like, here it is. We can go ahead and propose that Arvel's going to go ahead and fly over here trying to catch Old T. And then Boss may do a small, like, 1 bank to try to get behind Arvel to shoot him and finally kill him because he only has 1 whole damage left. And then, of course, you have Finn here that's going to have to take on Wedge. You also have Joy here who could also do maybe a 2 hard and then barrel roll this way to get a shot on Wedge, but that's all just a matter of spacing and everything else. Now, this is where it ends. So Scum ends up with 20 points and Rebellion ended up with 9. I'm just going to go ahead and say that there were some key mistakes that the Rebels made. And one of those key mistakes is, give me a second, let's go right here. So you see how everybody's lined up right here. And then we go into the next round here. They go ahead and split the middle. And yeah, they have a pretty good thing going on here where they have 3 attackers here, 2 attackers here. But the problem is that at least Dutch should have stayed here with the rest of the attackers and the entourage at that point in time, handing out target locks, staying away from going up against 2 Fang fighters, as you can see, which is what happened. Because, I'm sorry, having Joy come over here and doing a nearly range 1 attack on, on Dutch didn't help, stripped all the shields, and then to follow it up with another Fang fighter, Fenn, going in and taking 5 hull off of her, and then, or off of Dutch, and then following up and killing Dutch at that point in time. So in which case, those are some of the things that I could tell you Dutch should have been flying with this group and possibly handing out target locks. That way, Garvin could actually have ended up with, hold on, let me back up so that we can see this. Boom. Okay, so Garvin could have been given, if Dutch were over here, Garvin could have been given a target lock and a focus for the attack that Garvin did with the advanced proton torpedoes. But, you know, it is what it is. Hindsight is always 2020, but that is one of the reasons I'm going to say that this particular player with the Rebels didn't do well, because he split up his forces, or he at least should not have put Dutch up against two Fang fighters. So, but you live, you learn. That's how things work. And hopefully, at the end of the day, this player learns from his mistakes. We still both of us still had fun with this particular game, and there it is. So, my name is BatMando. I am the resident scum player and first order convert over at Order 66 in Plano. Thank you for watching our field report on this particular battle. Subscribe for more field reports. We're going to be making more of them. And just basically, the videos here are for the purpose of teaching new players how to play by going frame by frame. And there you have it. So just talking about some of the strategies, some of the choices behind my thinking, or sometimes if the other person feels comfortable talking about their thinking. And there you go. So we're hoping later that we actually get to do these live. And we're also hoping that we actually get a chance to do a rolling video as opposed to a frame by frame or round by round, if you will. And you know, we'll see where we go. So we thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, and BatMando out, and look forward to seeing you at a table here if you live in the DFW area. BatMando out.